Welcome, Farha. How are you?
Well,
Good. So, before we begin our conversation, let me introduce you, a very, very dynamic and multifaceted person as I know you, for the viewers. Yeah. So, apart from being a great friend for many, many, many years,
true.
Farha is passionate about life, family or friends, theater or cooking, and from college dramatics to being a full time drama queen,
True.
life really has been quintessentially quirky for you. You are an alumnus of Indian Institute of Mass Communication, and now you call yourself a storyteller using words, verse, and stage to tell your stories. You have acted in one of my plays as part of the Hungry Heart Festival called Rubaru. You have performed with the Living Room Theatre, which has been directed by Sarita Bora in several plays in Delhi and Gurgaon. But that is not all. You went on to co-found Urban-Suburban Productions, quite a mouthful, with other theatre enthusiast friends to bring intimate theatre to Gurgaon. You have enjoyed scripting and directing Deadly Ties, Fly High, Firefly, God, I'm No Goddess, Vexed in the City, and Heaven on Fire. I love the names that you have taken. You have
Yes.
also scripted and directed three nail biting murders over dinner, Deadly Ties, To Kill a Talking Bird, and Bloody Ties. You have conducted theatre workshops with children and co directed Just Kidding and Telling Tall Tales. You have conceived and directed a fundraiser for the Earth Saviors Foundation called Really Scary Silly Stories. You're proud of the fact that USP, which is your theatre company, has created a fabulous theatre loving community in Gurgaon, and you believe that comedy is your forte because a good laugh, in your words, is a high in itself.
I did have a safe childhood, but I had a very supervised childhood. So this house that was there, all of us sort of belonged to the house, and the family
Oh,
was within the house. We also had my aunt who had MS and who was widowed. She had her children staying with us. They were all boys. So we had to have a very supervised childhood as well. There was always an adult in and out of our lives around us. So it was a house where people could disappear in their own rooms on different floors. But yet there was people were very alert, Smith. I was trying to think back, and there were very alert, wise people around us and people who were
hmm.
invested. So if say the parents were busy, the grandparents and the aunts were tuned
Oh,
into us. So it wasn't as if we were willful, but we were loved. I don't know how to express it. Nobody was ever told they were beautiful. Nobody was ever told they were bright. We were told we
oh.
were all work in progress kind of thing. Yes, if you try, you will get there. So we grew up not thinking that we were unusual, but just that we were very loved. I think that was important.
So I think what you really identified is that there was communication, there was listening that was happening over
Yes.
there, and that there were boundaries that were being
Yes.
established in a very subliminal way that was happening over there with you, and parents and people, the adults around you were alert, and
Very
you
alert.
were all supervised. I think these are
Yes.
like really important indicators that you inherited as part of your messaging, your
Right.
DNA.
Yes.
Did you bring it into your life with your children? I mean, you've shared one instance, but how did you practice it?
I did too because I have two daughters, and my most of the extended family is all boys, and I wanted the same kind of environment for my children. I wanted them to be with their cousins, play with them, have memories. So I remember my father telling me that you give your children good habits and good memories. Somewhere there is discipline, and somewhere there is this creating of a happy space. If you do either of the two, there is a very fine balance as a parent. So you do have to talk. And I remember talking to my children when they were very young. We used to live in Gurgaon. They were going by bus to school. So there were I identified several places where they were at danger. There was the bus driver, there was the there was a bhaiya who used to give them tickets. So everybody was a bhaiya. We are Lucknowites. We everybody's bhaiya. So bhaiya is a safe word. So bhaiya can get away with a lot. So to identify, well, these are strangers. And then my daughter was very young, and I was talking to her about touch. Now, it so happened that there used to be a parenting magazine, and I used to look at the sketches there where they would say, talk to your children. And I would explain it to her that these are not the safe places. This is not a safe touch. And I remember she took that magazine to school. And the boys in class, there were some sketches about breasts and all. They took the magazine and passed it around. And of course, there was a furor in the class. I think it was class 3 or 4. And so this magazine was being passed around. It was called Parenting. So it wasn't a magazine that shouldn't have been in the house. And the teacher confiscated it. And she asked me to come when the parent-teacher meeting. Unfortunately, she told me, she says, these magazines cause so much disruption. I said, did you see? She said, there were sketches. I said, it was a chance for you, an opportunity for you to talk about it. You missed it. And these are conversations I choose to have with my child because I want her to stay safe. Yeah, we do talk about it. And as a group of women who write for women and who work with women and with children, we are always talking about it, where you are in a position where you lose your respect, you lose your identity. It stops being equal. And there are always equations. It's so wrong to judge someone, Smita. Everybody is battling life every day. And you just have to, for example, when you're dealing with your children, both my kids are professionals, but I've never said that your ambition should take over the quality of your life. I said it's always a very tough thing to be managed between your work life and your professional. If your professional life is fantastic and your personal life is a mess, you are failing, or vice versa. If you've got a great relationship and professionally you've neglected your work, so you have to balance the two. And I think first you learn to balance your own self. The balance has to be within. And I'm a Libran. I am struggling with balancing myself all the time. It's like a seesaw. So I'm trying to, I have arguments against my own argument most of the time in my head. So I put forth an idea and I have 4 of me saying, well, why, how, exactly. So first the balance has to be within. And then the balances from outside are easier, I think. You have to know yourself. How much are you willing to sacrifice for this equality? Is it a superficial equality? Is it about someone opening a door or something? That's rubbish. That is so outdated. Equality is about sharing money, finances in the house. Who controls that? Where your investments are. Who are you meeting? Are you just meeting your husband or your boyfriend's family or friends, or are you able to retain your own friends and your own relationships? Very important that taking time out for myself so that you can be a better human being, a better support to another person, men and women. So that equality is in the head, and then you look for equality outside. But financial equality is very important as well, I think. We are a house full of women. There's a lady who's looked after my children, and she and I are more codependent than we care to admit. We spend more time with each other than I do with my spouse, and taking care of her needs, her family, and giving her the respect. So very often when we walk into a place, she's acknowledged first because she's very dignified looking, and sometimes we are very scruffy. She's acknowledged first, and it gives me like a big boost. It makes me very happy. And she's a wonderful person. She's a single person, doesn't have children of her own, looks after her sister's entire family. Smita, those are studies in sacrifice, in dedication, in selflessness. Giving 5,000 rupees here, there is not. Her whole life, her entire life. I respect that. And she says, I wasted my life. I said, you brought up a whole family together with your own work. So that is acknowledging everybody around you. The same thing, my grandmother was a tough lady. I learned a lot from her. My mother was widowed very early, hadn't done much, but she, on her feet, and she looked after everybody. So those are people who are inspirational. I mean, of course, they're big feminist stories and huge things that people are doing, but around us,
Yes.
acknowledging my own daughters are wonderful girls, and I'm always told that they are different. And when they were growing up in Delhi, they were told, "Ye Delhi jaisi nahi lagti," and they used to cry. They used to think there's some hick, village girls, because they used to talk up and बैठिए and जाइए, and they used to say, "But why do people say that, mom?" And when they grew up, of course, that became a USP. But yes, they are. Yeah, so they are fiercely feminist, but fiercely feminist, but more control
I
than I
love
am.
that.
The people around you, you trust. So you don't even expect. It's like an intruder in your home who is hiding there in the shadows. You can shut the door to your house and you can keep the stranger out. But what happens to this shadow, this evil shadow that's in the house? They're around you. Your safe space is your house or your school or your bus or whatever, your vans, you're traveling in vans. And that is the danger, where you are so soft as a child, you're so trusting, you are so affectionate, and you're trying to fit in, so you're not trying to get people upset, and that's why this intruder is around you. I think that's very dangerous, and we write about it in our plays as well, that it comes from so insidiously into our lives. We're not able to, the child first of all is so trusting. And when your instinct as a parent tell you something is wrong, that instinct is right. Trust your instinct, because I think instinct is generations of chromosomal matter that has been programmed in you. Trust it. Not everything is black and white and proof. Where is the proof? Instinct, trust your instinct, because that will help you as a parent. So, Smita, several reasons. One is that women have been economically dependent on the men. And sometimes the person who is in power in the family, supposing there's a family where the grandfather or the uncle is running the house or the business, if a woman's child is, she sees her life as upside down. She sees as there's no money coming her way. How will she raise her children? That it can be a husband who's abusive, or a brother who's making money, or son of the house. So there, I think it's also economic somewhere. A lot of it happens also when women are stepping outside to work. For example, the domestic labor that steps out to work, their children are not safe, Smita. The child has to know, how will you tell this child कि trust भी करना है लेकिन नहीं भी करना है? How do you tell them about an uncle कि पैर छू के प्रणाम करो, नमस्ते करो, आदाब करो, लेकिन वो अच्छा नहीं है? So that will have to come out, that is very important ki, when the child says ek bhi siski, ek bhi awaaz, usko pakdo, sound that, but as mothers, fathers, parents, teachers, we have to hear that. So the child sexual abuse laws are ridiculous, but coming from that, the case 2-3 days ago that was in the newspapers about the exploiter being told to marry the child he had abused, it has shaken all of us. And it's not about, the laws don't keep people in place. It's also trials, it's also convictions, and really public convictions. And the reason people don't talk about sexual abuse within the family, one is economic, one is log kya kahenge, and बच्चे की जिंदगी खराब हो जाएगी, what will happen to this child, and they live with the stigma, and so that is a problem. If something is done to someone, they can't be the criminal in that. They're not, they're the survivors, they're champs, they've come out of it, and you have to stand by them. There is no, and I think what happens is child sexual abuse is that becomes a pattern of behavior, because once someone senses that you are can be exploited. And Smita, you know that confident, communicative children, there's less of a chance of exploiting them. But neglected, angry children, children who are feeling unsure about themselves, are more likely to. And I think the exploiters sort of look at them and they work on their psyche and they become nicer to them and they entice them and they work on them. So it's very, it's such a well thought out plan to look for your that one victim. It's not violent. I don't even think it's a violent act. I think it's a well thought out plan.
Yeah.
Um, I would think touch, unnecessary attention giving to someone who, singling out someone, not for anything else, but for pre-planned sort of exploitative behavior, that you're going to. So that is, I think, is unhealthy.
So would you say like showing nude pictures can be considered as child sexual
Yes,
abuse?
absolutely, absolutely. Or showing even now, of course, the phone has become such a weapon in people's hands to show semi-pornographic stuff to children, watching, and nobody will ever know that if your child and the parent will say, "Oh, he's playing with so and so's phone, or he's looking at so and so's phone." But the thing is that you have put that material into his hand to get his guard down or her guard down. So
Yeah.
being very watchful about content also, and always remember that a picture does not say so much as sounds, words, actions, all put together have such a strong effect on your brain. The imprint is far greater. I would say, just like with drugs or with sexual abuse, the signs are very similar. Any kind of abuse is that the child will become angry, they will withdraw into themselves, they will not make eye contact, they will as if they're walking on eggshells in the house. There is tension, palpable tension that you can feel around them. And I think the healthiest thing is to just let a child talk. So what do you think of this? Throw things at them. If you're saying something,
Hmm.
if I touch you here, how does it feel like? If I
Hmm.
touch you there, is just play games. And this is what we don't do. Have that. And why are
Oh.
you scared? Your child is your own you have enough tools to talk to your child. If you're confused, talk to someone, go to a counselor. You have to be talking in schools, and you have to be talking in homes. It's not, you can't pass on your responsibility to the schools or the schools to the parents. Wherever you can get information from to keep you safe, you have to, any change in behavior,
Sure.
I think I would talk to the child first, and you have to have enough time with them, and you have to throw things about the exploiter to them. So, he did this to me, I didn't like it. Did he do that to you? That kind of thing, where you become not the person talking down to the child, but you are the child. I am like you. It can happen to
Hmm.
me. Very often, as parents, we talk down to children. Oh, we did these wonderful things and we studied like this. We never talk about our failures. We never talk about what we went through or how we handled it. So it's very important to be that parent or that friend or that aunt or uncle where you say, it happens to me. And when the child also, Smita, they will start talking in the third person. It happened to that person, something happened to them. That they're talking about themselves. Be alert to that. Or
Hmm.
that bhaiya did this, or that, you be alert there. You have to say that, but what did they do
So,
then?
would you talk to the
So
abuser?
I would talk to the abuser, but only when I know the child is safe. I am talking once I know my information. How is he exerting this influence? Is he in the family setting where this child cannot step outside of that? You have to be very mindful of it. How do you create that space between the abuser and the child? You talk to him and he goes and hammers the child or is more violent to the child. Till now, it was gentle. So, where are you going to create this space between the abuser and the exploited child? You have to create that little gap. If they're overlapping, there is no safety, and it is going to be more violent, Smita. Till now, if it was quiet, it's going to be heinous. It is going to be. So
Very well.
where can you, and also nothing has to be done publicly. Now, if this person, whoever it is, God forbid, they've done it out of curiosity and it's a one-off thing, you God knows what has been done to them. So you have to also get some people into it, maybe other older aunts or friends or something, couple of them. So how do we deal with it without judging? So if this person is not regularly in the child's life, can they be removed till this child becomes, healed? I think they can be better. Any kind of abuse, Smita, you can be better. You can learn to cope with it better. You never heal. They always scars in your mind, and you will always have difficulty in relationships. But I think what can happen is that you learn to handle your response to them. You know that the patterns of behavior that are repetitive in you are able to recognize that. Why are you doing what you do? And I think counseling helps. People like you help. You are there to you are doing the work of parents and teachers and everybody all together, and where people have missed out on, you're stepping in now where the damage has happened. And somewhere with your training and all that, people who are able to save themselves and safe spaces. Can you imagine in a group of 50 people, if you're able to reach out to 30 whose antenna are up and they know that this can happen to me, you saved lives. So yeah, people never heal. I think she will give her brother the affection he needs right now, and she will be talking to the parents. I think children are cleverer than we think they are. They're very sensitive, and to each other. And especially, she seemed tuned into her brother. So they were playful and naughty and all that. Yet, I think she will be talking to her parents. And I think she will be not in all the conversations, but in the first few conversations, she'll definitely be there. And she may be holding her brother's hand. I don't know. I think the parents will be sitting and talking to the child. I think they will be. I think the kind of family they seemed. I think they will be getting in touch with a counselor. I think they will be supervising their children a little more. They will be around their children a little more, and not a little more. I think a lot more. A lot more. It's. I think they will work their work times or whatever they are. They'll make sure that they are never left unsupervised. I don't think so. In this story, he will not be taken, but definitely they will be moving houses. They will be not staying in the same house. And I think Chachu will be accosted with Dadi, Dada, whoever are there. They will have this conversation. And in the Indian setting, लड़के को सेटल अगर करा दो तो सब उसकी बुरी बातें निकल जाती हैं, सब ठीक हो जाएगा. He will probably be married off, God knows. So yes, that may happen. In, I think, a personal capacity, you have to be tuned into your child or tuned into children. Stay tuned in. Listen. Listening is important. I can speak from my own personal experience. My children would come from school, and while they ate their lunch, and that's why I say, there are a lot of things that we lose out in life and not being professional women who bring home the regular salary. But one of the fine things that we are part of is being a part of our children's lives. It's as if you've taken this whole bowl of freshness from life, which the children's life, and had it yourself, and you feel so energized. So that was that conversation. It would ramble, it would talk from one to another, and you throw in your little bits. But what happened, supposing when I heard about this abuse thing in school, so they didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to talk about it, and the school was told, the children were told not to talk about it, and the parents who came were told not to talk about it, who came to question this. So throwing it, and I said, but you know that it's not to be done. And they said, yo, but we never go to the bathrooms alone. And also, yes, listening to the child, and again reiterating it. Some lessons are forgotten, but come back to them. It's like learning your tables. You can don't come back as again and again, you'll forget them. So it's just coming back to it again. And it's not, you're not being OCD or anything, but you just, it's one of those things, like you don't go through, you don't drive without a seat belt. It's, you're as a parent, as a giver, you're a seat belt across the child's chest. So you're not going to stop the emotion, but you're just that very comforting hand across them, that I'm there when you need me. If there's something terrible happens, I'll hold you. You're in my care. Just that. Yes, I am a Rakshan.